One million followers will be.
I'm not really a person anyone with kind of like what's on it. He was like,
All right, how we doing this morning? Good? So, Tuesday we talked about cocaine, right? And then in that lesson, we kind of introduced a little bit about crack cocaine. So today we're going to move into crack cocaine, and then tomorrow I'll be here, and we'll finish off my time with you guys and talk about crystal meth. So for today, our instant activity, quick little intro video here, just discussing crack cocaine and its effect that it's had on the U.S. So we'll watch this, and then we'll get into a little bit of a discussion after and talk about it.
It was cheap, ready to use, and easy to make money off of. But the impact crack had on the United States in the 70s and 80s was devastating.
It's called both rock and crack, but no matter what you call it, it is nearly pure cocaine and it can kill.
The DEA says it was impossible to turn on the evening news without seeing its effects. But how did this start? The epidemic of a drug that seemed to fall out of the sky? Well, it didn't. The United States Drug Enforcement Agency starts the story during the 1980s when international drug trafficking organizations grew more powerful. The cocaine trade dominated the Western Hemisphere, and the drug hit the U.S. the strongest in 1985. By 1989, the DEA called the epidemic the most important issue in the country. Violence skyrocketed, and cocaine-related ER visits increased by 28 times in just 4 years.
I do coke so I can work longer, so I can earn more, so I can do more coke.
It got to a point where there was too much product on the streets, driving prices way down. So drug dealers had to come up with something to keep money flowing. They converted it to crack, or smokable cocaine. And now it could be sold in smaller quantities to more people. But the low price of crack made it easily accessible to lower income, typically black, neighborhoods. The Foundation for a Drug-Free World gives us a timeline to show just how quickly things escalated. In 1985, the number of people who admitted to using the drug in some form regularly grew by more than 1 million. That same year, the National Narcotics Intelligence Consumers Committee reported more than 9,000 people took ER visits for cocaine-related emergencies in the U.S. In just 1 year, that number jumped to almost 14,000. The epidemic made way for a generation of crack babies, millions of government dollars going into policing the problem. Strategies ranged from targeting its points of entry into the country, an increase in local cocaine enforcement teams, and randomly testing people at their jobs for illegal drugs. By 1989, the DEA had so many employees it had to relocate to Virginia for more space. So what came of the epidemic? Encyclopedia Britannica says it increased court caseloads and prison populations. The focus was on small-time drug dealers who were generally young black men from inner cities. A person could get a minimum penalty of 5 years behind bars for 5 grams of crack. But somehow, the same sentence qualified for 500 grams of cocaine. The result? Encyclopedia Britannica says the arrests of drug dealers and their customers contributed to the prison population doubling. 1 in every 4 black men ages 20 to 29 were either incarcerated, on probation, or on parole by 1989. In 1995, it was 1 in 3. Let that sink in. 1/3 of all black men were in jail. So it would make sense. The United States had and still has the highest incarceration rate in the world. The country is still fighting side effects from the crack epidemic today. The government said tough laws were supposed to crush the epidemic. But the crisis also ended up crushing Black communities and the families in them.
Alright, so what do we think about that video? You've seen it started back in the 70s and 80s, right? It's been around for quite a few decades now. So what do we see in that video? Anything?
Well, at first it used to be big, but now we're trying to find a way to make it smaller and not be high.
What else we see?
That it basically the black men were doing it and
They were selling it as well. They were getting put in jail for it.
they tore the black men apart.
Yeah, the communities, they said. Alright, so that was just a little intro video to our topic today, crack cocaine. So our three objectives I want us to take away are understanding what crack cocaine is, know why crack cocaine is so addictive, and understanding the harmful effects of it. So some statistics to get us started out here. In U.S. federal courts in 2007, 5,477 individuals were found guilty of crack cocaine-related crimes.
We're ranking now.
No, we're just going to talk about it a little bit. You're not to jot these down quite yet. More than 95% of those offenders have been involved in crack cocaine trafficking, which is crazy. 2007 U.S. National Survey on Drug Use and Health shows that 8.6 million Americans 12 and older reported having used crack. So you can see how popular this drug is. Among those 18 to 25, 6.9% of those surveyed that they had used crack within the last year. The U.S. Government Monitoring the Future survey found that among high school students, 3.2% of 12th graders, so seniors, had used crack cocaine at some point in their lives. Already. They just turned 18 and now they're 17. In the U.S., crack cocaine was the primary drug of abuse and 178,000 admissions to treatment in 2006. So this was a very popular drug, and we'll talk about why it was popular. They mentioned it a little bit in the video because when they turned it into crystal or crack cocaine, it was in smaller quantities. They made it cheaper and it was easier to sell and move. Any questions on those statistics? All right, so what is crack cocaine? It is a crystal form of cocaine. Tuesday we talked about the powdered form of cocaine, right? And how it can be sniffed, snorted, injected. Crack cocaine comes in solid blocks or crystals varying in color from yellow to pale rose or white. All right, now the crack is heated and smoked, and it gets its name because it makes a cracking and popping sound when heated. That's where the crack cocaine comes from. It is the most potent form of cocaine, between 75% and 100% pure, which is what makes it so dangerous. Smoking it, so they're smoking it out of a pipe, allows it to reach the brain more quickly, giving it an intense high for the user that lasts for about 15 minutes. Because of cocaine's high cost, the powdered cocaine that we talked about Tuesday, it has been considered a rich man's drug. So when they came up with the crack cocaine, on the other hand, it was sold so low in price that even teens could afford to buy it at first. But that didn't last long because once they became addicted, the expense of it skyrocketed due to the increase of amounts that they needed. So you remember how we talked about tolerance and how people were building tolerance for drugs? Well, they would be building tolerance and addictions after one use of it. So they would have to keep spending more and more and more to get that same high that they were chasing the first time that they did it. Does anyone else need more time on this slide? Good? Okay, so why is it so highly addictive? Crack cocaine is one of the most powerful illegal drugs when it comes to producing psychological dependence. It stimulates key pleasure centers within our brains and causes extremely heightened euphoria. And you've seen euphoria in the past couple of drugs that we've talked about that it can lead to. Either it was a short-term or long-term effect. Compulsive crack use, so constant crack use, develops soon after the person starts using because the substance is smoked and it enters the bloodstream rapidly. So you remember we talked about the powder cocaine on Tuesday, how if they were smoking that, it was quicker, but the effects were more intense. Like I said, a tolerance for it develops quickly, and it usually develops right after the first use. And the addict or the user soon fails to achieve that same high that they experienced earlier, or the first time that they did it, from the same amount of crack cocaine that they may have done the first time. And at the bottom here, this is a little quote from a former crack cocaine user. She said, "I had acquired a $2,000 per week crack cocaine habit and desperately wanted to be free from the chains." $2,000 a week. How long do you think it'd take you to make $2,000? She's spending this on crack cocaine per week. So you do that in a month, $8,000. 2 months, $16,000. All chasing that high. She needed that much because her tolerance was so high and she was so addicted to the drug. Does anyone need more time on this slide? Good? Alright, so some short-term effects. Because it is smoked, like we said, the effects of crack cocaine are more immediate and more intense than the powder cocaine. Because we said that it enters the bloodstream quicker. So ultimately, it's the same short-term and long-term effects of the powder cocaine. So if you wrote these down Tuesday, you already got them. If not, you got a chance to write them down again. It's the same short-term effects of the powder cocaine, but because that is smoked, it's more immediate and it's more intense. So some of the effects were loss of appetite, dilated pupils, disturbed sleep patterns, nausea, bizarre, erratic, sometimes violent behavior, intense euphoria, anxiety and paranoia, depression, panic and psychosis. And then with the powder cocaine, convulsions, seizures, and sudden death from high doses even one time. That's even more immediate, more intense, and more heightened now with the crack cocaine. So your risks go up. So make sure you get, though, because it is smoked, the effects of crack cocaine are more immediate and more intense than powder cocaine. And then if you have those short-term effects, just drag those down under that. Yeah, so this right here. You're good. How'd our fact sheets come out? Good?
Yeah, they came out really nice.
Everyone got that? Alright, so long-term effects. Like I said, the effects are the same as they were Tuesday for the powder cocaine. So if you got them already, you can just copy and paste them down. Or just jot a few of the new ones down, or the ones that you didn't type on Tuesday. Just keep in mind that all these effects are heightened now and more intense. Are we good on these long-term effects? Alright, so some street names for crack cocaine. Does anyone know of any street names?
On Rock.
Rock?
On Crack. On Rock.
Aunt Nora? That was for the Cocaine Tuesday.
Don't they call that crystal sometimes too?
Crystal, yeah. So we got a long list of them. We got 24/7, Apple Jacks, cookies, Crunch and Munch,
Just all the good names for food.
Kool-Aid,
French fries.
Fat Bags, Gravel, Hot Cakes, Ice Cube, Jelly Beans, Nuggets, Product, Rockstar, so you don't have to write every single one of these down. We'll be here all day. So just jot down a couple of them. Has anyone heard of any of these names now that they're out there? Which ones you hear of?
Crack, dice, long, Kool-Aid, candy, nuggets.
There you go.
Didn't Coca-Cola used to put cocaine in their drinks?
The Coca-Cola used to put cocaine in the drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real thing.
I'm not sure about that. You have to look that up.
It's true.
Wait, so do they do that now?
No.
Yeah, I'll show you that right now.
I don't know how true that is, but this is common fact, not fact, but it's a common thing. But I'm not sure if it's true or not. But it's been heard.
You look it up for me. Let me know tomorrow. All right. Does anyone have any questions about the street names? All right. We got about a little less than 20 minutes here for our main activity. So today, I want you to research a rehab center or a treatment care center for drug addiction. It can either be a local center that we have right around here, or if you find a national center that intrigues you, you can look that up as well. So you're going to create a Google Doc, since it's easier to share with Mrs. Wilson. Create a Google Doc on the rehab center that you find or the treatment center that you find, and provide the following information. So I want you to have the name of the rehab or the treatment care center. Where is it located? So if it's out of state, it has the city and the state. When did it start? So when did the rehab center, the treatment center open? And how can you contact them? How can you get in contact with them? The email, phone number. If there's multiple, give me 2 or 3 of them. Alright? If you want to do this with a partner, you can. If you want to work alone, if you're more comfortable working alone, that's fine as well. So I'm going to give you the rest of the class to do it. If you do happen to finish it, share it with Mrs. Wilson through the Google Docs. Does anyone have any questions about the activity?
Also, Also, I need, some of you did not turn in your fact sheet yesterday. So make sure that you turn it in. Yes.
That marijuana paper I turned in, they had the year before.
I'll check it. Right now, I'll check it. Well, he needs this up, so I'll take myself a note.
Wants it nice and toasty.
What's that?
Wants it nice and toasty.
Thank you.
So either work in a partner or with another partner or by yourself, no groups of 3. You can accomplish this by yourself or with one other person. You got a question?
Yeah, share it with me. Miss Demian has it.
When did it start?
She has it with you. She has it for you, so you can go in there and show it off. Yes.
You really like that one, don't you? You mind if I drink the water?
Yeah,
sure.
So I can give it to I got it. So I don't think I did the real one.
Excuse from them.
I don't know if I was
Yes,
I know
see the
something like you want.
crossword puzzle. You here for that? But you don't think you did the marijuana?
I can go back and look.
It was that square that had the questions on it.
Make a bullet point about what they're
Yes.
known for.
I'll check that. Okay, I'll check. Excuse you from these two, and then I'll check your. Yeah, I'll do that next week.
Is it the one in Youngstown?
Xander. Xander.
Yes.
Please come here for a minute.
Okay.
You're taller than me, right?
Hey,
You know,
real
my-
quick,
you know, my
if you
stepmom
can't
does the same
find,
thing.
if you can't find when it started, just go ahead and give me the motto of the center. What's their message? What's their motto? instead of when it started if you can't find it.
Thank you.
So I've had 2 groups now say that they couldn't find when it started. So just go ahead and jot down their motto. What are they known for? What's their message? You guys find a center yet?
I know there was this one local place my mom went to when she was, I think it's back.
You know the name of it?
No, I don't.
I know this old abandoned place that used to be for all the drug addicts
Get it?
in Maryland.
What's the name of it?
It was like so long ago when I was there. It's like summer.
I'm so silly.
You can find one around here then if you want. You can find one in California. Does that have a message about what they're about? Go to their website. They have a website?
No, there should be a fence on the entire perimeter of the roof.
Apparently the guy's logic also things can apparently get big and small.
I mean, I'm not gonna plan.
If you finish it before the end of class, just share it with Mrs. Wilson through Google.
Not for me. I'm just looking out for a plan.
You suck, I'm using 6 keys.
It's not for me.
You suck, I'm using 6 keys.
It's for me. Lamau.
How's it coming? How we doing over here? We got a center or rehab center yet?
Peter,
You by yourself or with a partner? Got about six or 7 minutes left.
Um, 8:51. Greg. 8. Greg, you won. Greg. It's Frank. No, it's not. It is Frank. No, it's not Shraggy. It's Raggy. It's Aggie.
He's using only 1% of power.
You know they actually made that thing. You know they actually. No,
Yeah.
they only go up 4, up, down, left, and right.
Oh, look. They're sick of the cheese.
Okay, so they made Ultra Instinct Shaggy a real thing.
They did.
Yeah.
Ultra
Instinct Shaggy.
Ultra Instinct and I am after part of the
Why do you keep watching that same video over and over again?
Hey, to show you the true power of Shane.
I know that it's our. I know.
Here's the dude.
It's 70. Yeah, I can't do that. The only thing I can do is 460.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Does he know Elijah?
Mhm.
Do you know who Burston is?
Who?
Burston, the dark skinned kid. He's short. Oh, really? Yeah, I mean, them were some good crackers. I don't know, but this is last week. I'll show you a picture.
I'm done, and I sent it to you. I can only found one phone number, not 3. I tried my best, but
Oh no, you're fine. I was just saying if it had multiple, list a couple of them down.
I already did my stuff.
All right, good job. All right, we only got a couple minutes left here. If you're still working on that activity, go ahead. But does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns about crack cocaine or anything that we talked about so far? Or any questions at all? We good? All right. Finish that activity up. Share with Mrs. Wilson.
Wait, we get the call late, so like, you don't hear shit like,
I don't know.
All right, if no one has anything else, finish that up. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.